Hello, Ali. Welcome back to your small business podcast. How are you today?
Doing well. I'm so glad to be back, Janice. How are you?
I am doing great. I will say you're officially like a Your Small Business Podcast regular. This is your second time on the show. I am so glad to have you back. Yes.
I'm excited.
Yes. So, for the ones who don't know who you are already, tell us what you do. How has your entrepreneur journey has it taken to you to where you are right now today?
Yes. Well, I am so glad to be back. I'm a big fan of your small business podcast.
Thank you.
My name is Ali Joseph. As it states, I'm known in the virtual world as the Virtual Solutionist. So I focus specifically and have really evolved over the last year into client management. So I help small business companies that more specifically with a heavy focus on podcasters and coaches, as well as independent truck companies. So I help them with their CRM setup and client management on a monthly basis. So pretty much if you're someone that needs a CRM tool to keep your client information together, you are starting a business and want to start and make sure that you're organized from the beginning. That is what I do. I help small companies do that and streamline your client management processes as well. So been doing in corporate for several years, over 12 years. So I've worked with a lot of startups in Chicago, Fortune 500. So I've seen it all from the good, the bad, and the ugly. so
I bet. Especially when you say Fortune 500 and that's a lot of employees, a lot of organization that you got to keep up with, and that's hard to do. So
yes,
you are much needed in this world, in this business world for organization.
absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely.
So today we're going to talk about delegation. It's the word that entrepreneurs, they get a little queasy thinking about it. So why do you think it's so hard for entrepreneurs to start delegating some task to others? Especially when when it will make your business run better, give you more room to breathe, and it can help grow your business, but it's still hard to do that. Why is it so hard for us to delegate?
Yes, so I believe, and just from what I've seen with delegation, I think it comes down to just being able to let go of certain things, right? Naturally, as just people, and I say this naturally, just even just as a woman, right? Like we like to do things and we like to do things the way that we want to do things because we've figured out the flow, we figured out what makes sense. We know that if it's done a little differently, it can turn different result. And I think that starts with the natural component of a person in general, right? Like we birth something, right? Like we obviously as women we birth children, but also as people we birth businesses, right? So we find the mastery, we find the right recipe, as some people would say. And so once we find that, we get attached to it. We know it works, like we know it from the back of our head. We don't need to, in some cases, some people don't need to write it down because they already know what they need to do, from the tactics to the audience, so on and so forth. And I think that's been a challenge for a lot of people because they understand that if they let go, someone may come in with a different idea that's different from yours, but it may still work. It will work and it can still provide the right results, even though it's not the flow that you've done. And so there's a trust factor there. There's the fear of letting go, to think like, oh, if I let this go, this whole process that I created with delegating in my business, um, I might fail, or it might turn results that I don't want it to turn. And the one thing that I like to tell people is that, that's where the risk factor comes in, like anything in business. I mean, the fact that you pay for an LLC or a sole entrepreneur, a sole proprietorship, like anything in business is a risk. And
Mhm.
so whether you know, keep the task to yourself or whether you delegate it, you're taking a risk either way, right? Like
Mhm.
there's going to be times where it's not going to work out. It's going to be times where there may be an adjustment. And one thing I've just learned just helping people, but also myself as an entrepreneur, is that um taking risk is just a part of the deal, right? Like the people that are making millions, 6, 7, 8, 9 figures in their income took risk and they kept going. And so even if there are small minor things, that's going to happen. But additionally, like you have to grow. And in order for you to do that, like you can't just do everything in your business. And I think just a lot of people have that fear. And it's so challenging because you may be in that stubbornness to not want to move or receive something different in a different perspective that can particularly help you with the same results. So I think that's why it's so hard. It's something I had to work on because once you figure that recipe out, baby, I tell you, it's like you just
Mhm.
know it from the back of your head, but it can also hinder you from being able to continue to expand out to where you're supposed to be in your business and your ability to reach your target audience.
Yeah, yeah, totally. That really summed it up because it is. It's like I like how you say it like a recipe. Like you found the
Mhm.
recipe, you know exactly what the ingredients are, your measurements, you got it to a T, and then someone else comes and decides, I'm gonna put a little bit more pepper in there. And you say,
Right.
no, I already put enough pepper in there.
Right. It's
Don't put
enough.
that in there. No, we just gonna throw your pepper on out in the trash. We don't need your pepper. I totally get it. Yes, because we, like you said, it's our baby. This is our business. And I totally understand. I get it. And I think the last time we talked, I was talking about how I'm one of those people that don't want to let go. And here we are. I don't know how long it's been. It's been quite a few months, and I'm still like that person.
Yeah.
Still ain't letting go. I ain't letting nobody put no pepper on it.
She said, I put
I
enough
gotta work
pepper.
through it. Yeah, I don't want pepper. Not right now. um, so, how do you know when you get to that place when it's time to start letting go? How do you know when it's time?
For me, I think it's more of the stress factor that goes into
Mm-hmm.
that. I think when you start feeling, one, of course, when you start feeling overwhelmed, when your passion at that moment, because we all go through those roller coasters. So I feel like when it's getting to a point where you're not liking what you do, because I think that's what some of the challenge is. You have a lot of people, and I think that also contributes to why a lot of businesses, even after like within their first year, that they fail, because a lot of the time they're doing everything. Typically, they're doing everything themselves, and it's a lot of work, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
just like we do anything, whether being a parent, having a day job, it takes work, right? And so a lot of the times people they overexert themselves with everything and they get stressed out and they're angry, they're immediately frustrated, and sometimes they just quit or they just prolong the process a lot longer. And so I think one of the things that causes that frustration is simply because of the fact that people are really just they're frustrated, they're angry, and they're just like done with it. And so a lot of the times it just equates to somebody just quitting or they're just prolonging the process. When it comes to that, when you get to that mindset, it comes to a point where you have to make a decision. And I don't think it's that people don't like what they do. It's just, it's a lot to do on your own. And so when you're getting to that point where building a business is not fun or it's not, your passion isn't there. Because I feel like I compare it to the same thing when people talk about being happy versus being fulfilled. Happy is a temporary emotion, right? Like we're all going to be happy, but there's going to be times where we're going to be upset, we're going to be angry, you're going to have different emotions. It's the same thing for me in business, right? Like you're going to have those moments where situations may get frustrating. You may have a frustrating conversation. You have like a lot of rejected no's. You have to then sit down. If you're at that point where it's just a headache every day, you really need to identify, is this something that you still like? And if it is it really the fact that it's just too much work, or is it the fact that you've put too much on yourself? And I figure that's where you need to start the conversation of asking yourself, okay, what are the little things that I can do to actually get some help into this process. So it's kind of looking at the before and after. So,
Mhm.
like with me, when it comes to talking to clients about a CRM system and organizing, we talk about the before, how that looks, how they're feeling, emotional. So, I talk about process wise, but I also bring in the human nature, then the after effect. So, I think once you start having that conversation with yourself, what does this look like before with me doing everything versus what would this look like if I can at least take 5 to 10% of what I'm currently doing off my plate. And it can be baby steps. For some people, they can probably reach that 50%. For some people, it may take taking 5, 10% off. That could be administration portion. Just a little bit, depending on where you are in your business, can make a lot of difference. But really, it just comes down to that stress level for me. It's like, is this at the point now where I'm getting frustrated, I don't like doing this? That's when you need to really assess, like, hey, is this something that I'm invested in? And if you still are, okay, what can you do to get some of this stuff removed off? And there's plenty of resources out there for that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That is a good point to make with that stress, because that's really the key factor to know if you need the help. Because if it's stressing you out, let's call some help in. And I
Right.
always say that when you get to that point where um, you're needing help, I think that means that your business is growing, which is a good place to be.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's a good way
Growth.
to measure if your business is growing. Like, hey, I need some extra hands here.
Exactly.
It's good. That means you're making progress. Your business is growing, but it's just, like I said, for some, it's just hard to let it go.
Absolutely. And that's when it's such a beautiful thing, especially when, you're growing into that next capacity. But it's also knowing that as your clientele grows, their demands grow. And depending on the type of clients that you're bringing in, obviously, like you're scaling to the next level. So you want to make sure that, like your tools, you want to make sure that you have the right help in the right places. So that way, as you're continuing to scale, you'll definitely be able to keep up with that amount of people that's coming in and keeping up with that scaling. So it's always a good thing. I love to see people grow, but
Hmm.
sometimes in turn it starts to spiral out of control after a while, because now you have 10 more clients which have 10 more different needs and 10 more different expectations. And so that's where you have to decipher, okay, if there's at least 1 to 2 major things that you can get from under your belt, it definitely will help alleviate a lot of that, but also keep the client management experience great for
Hmm.
your clients too. So you definitely like want to make sure they're already coming in for you as the subject matter expert. So they don't want you coming in, and they don't want to come in and you're already frustrated and they're frustrated already, which is the reason they reached out to you. So it's just
Yeah.
like, if you're both frustrated, it just doesn't leave any room to be able to expand the growth and really just, as I started telling people, like, I like to be the operation stress reliever. So that
Hmm.
way, that
Yeah.
way, when they're coming to me, that's exactly what they get out of the experience. Like, this is how I'm resolving your problem. I'm taking out the stress of your day to day. And I feel like that's the same thing for everybody. It's just, you gotta have that help. You gotta, even if it's a couple people, 2 people are better than zero, because at least there's things that you can put out there that will help you continue to focus on your zone of genius. And of course, which is most important, you want to be profitable, right? Like
Hmm.
profit first. That's something I know a lot of people don't like to talk about, or it kind of sounds like, oh, well, you're just about money. Well, that's why a lot of people go into business. It's
Yeah.
profit first.
Yeah.
Like profit first. So you got to make sure that you're able to supply and demand, especially we're in a pandemic. People have tighter expectations. They're very much tighter with their money. So it's definitely important.
Yes, it definitely is. What are some of the most important benefits you think when it comes to delegating for our to entrepreneur? What are the benefits of actually saying, "Hey, I need you to do this"?
Absolutely. Well, one, definitely not having to worry about a certain task, definitely getting the stress off that, especially if you're not the like the subject matter expert. So, I can't do everything in my business because I'm not the subject matter expert in everything. Like, I may have the recipe, but there's people that can also enhance it. and they can make it better and more efficient for my unique needs. And so that's one of the biggest things is you get a different perspective having someone delegating something to someone, especially if that's their zone of genius, right?
Mhm.
So that's one of the biggest benefits is that you don't want to just be an entrepreneur that's doing everything because you're not putting 100% into everything.
Right.
Because you have so much going on, you're probably putting 50% here, 25% here, 10% here. So everything that's needed to scale and to get to the next level is not really getting the investment that it needs because you're all over the place. Having that additional help of delegation helps you to get that extra expertise that you may not have, which is okay. I think sometimes we have to understand that we're not super people. Like you
Mhm.
can't do everything. And having that extra expertise really just helps you to give a different perspective, but also it helps your business better and it helps your clients be able to have a better experience when they're working with your brand. So definitely having that expertise. Um, Definitely taking away that stress. Again, we trying to do everything at one time. Having the ability to delegate certain things away definitely will help take that away. And of course, give you time back. So
Mhm.
whether that's you are a person that wants to sit down and you want to organize some things in your house, you want to spend more time with your family, or you may want to be selfish. You might just want to take a trip with those extra few hours, right? You
Yeah.
might want to watch a reality show. That's up to you, right?
Yeah.
But again, getting that time back is also a big benefactor because your creativity, your zone of genius, what makes you unique in the marketplace that you're working in, you get that stuff, that creative juices flowing back, and it gives you the opportunity to take that product or service that you currently have and make it a whole lot better.
Yes, definitely. Especially with that, like you said, the stress and then gaining some time back. Because a lot
Yes.
of us, I know when I first started doing this podcast, I found myself up to like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, just because I had a blog at the time. I had a website with the podcast and I was blogging and doing all kind of stuff. And I was getting no sleep and no time. Shoot, I hate missing the housewives. I have to watch the housewives. And so I said, you know what? I'm doing all this work and missing the housewives. I got to figure something out. And
Yeah.
that's when I began to realize, okay, I'm doing a little too much. Let me take a little bit off my plate here and there. True, I didn't delegate. I just started minimizing what I need to do and start figuring things out. But you're right, that time, because really when we're doing all of us entrepreneurs, that's one thing I notice a lot of people are working towards is gaining more time with their family, gaining more time to and just enjoy themselves. But if you're
Yes.
spending all your time working to 1, 2, or 3 o'clock in the morning, it's that's you're not gaining any time. Yeah.
Right. And people are, and like it causes damage, right? Like
Yeah.
you hear some of the stories out here where people, you're pretty much creating a job instead of like owning an actual company, right?
Mm.
So you hear the stories too of people having detrimental relationships with their children or even their relationships like with their spouses, right? Like people have suffered, and in some cases people have separated or even divorced. So
Mhm.
it's finding that balance too, because even though we do run businesses and we do, we build and we want to have successful legacies built and moving forward, it's always important to remember, like, it impacts the things that you do, also impacts the people that are playing the role, right? Like your
Right.
children, your family members, your spouses. So we want to always make sure too that delegation doesn't just save us from just personal stress of just getting things done, but it also helps us to alleviate, to share that time, with our families and with our friends and people that are close to us that can pour into us as we would pour into them.
Mhm.
It definitely does make a difference. And of course, at the end of the day, like I said, you can have time too to be selfish. I mean, I know for me, I go get my nails and that's like my selfish moment. Like my
Yes.
nails, my mani and pedicure, that's my selfish moment. No kids, no husband, none of that. Like, I don't want to talk to no friends. I don't even want to talk to anybody on the phone. Like, that's my moment to literally just break away from everything, enjoy some relaxed time. They at the little shops, they be having like little massage chairs. Like, I'm good. Like, I don't
Yes.
want no interruptions. I'm good.
That's me too. Every 2 weeks, Manny and Patty. Yes, every 2 weeks, my housewives, and now that I have my fitness, my health that I'm putting in the forefront. I watch the housewives as I run on the treadmill, so I feel like I'm killing two birds with one stone. But you just gotta make sure that you have that time to do it. You got That's
Absolutely.
why delegation is so important. Yes. So once you do decide that you're ready to make that step, you're ready
Mhm.
to delegate, you got to give something up. What is that first step? Because how do you prioritize what tasks need to be actually delegated? How do you figure that out?
Absolutely. So I always say this is a time where you want to write that stuff down. I feel like a journal, a planner, and an organizer in this format is necessary. So it's taking the things that you're doing on a day to day, writing it down and organizing it, and seeing what is causing what's causing the most headache. Two, what's also not profitable, right? So prime example, administrative stuff. Like, we all have to do administration, and administrative tasks, but if we're being honest, it's not a profit driven type of task. So as a CEO and as a founder, like, conversation, speaking engagements, talking to people one-on-one is what is going to drive profits. So those are things that you want to also look at when you're comparing. Is, here are things that I'm not so great at and I'm not investing a lot of time in, but you also want to look at the things that are not profitable and could be moved off your plate. Because at the end of the day, whether you are a solopreneur or you have 30 people under your business, you're responsible for making sure that the profits are coming into the company. That's your responsibility. It's your legacy. It's your livelihood that's on the line. So you always want to make sure that at least the top 70% of your time, if not 80%, there's profit driven strategies that are coming in to keeping the business going. So writing it down, comparing what you're not good at or you're not investing enough time in, also what's not profit driven. And those are the things that you want to look at from a daily operational perspective and see, well, what can I do here to delegate this out to someone? What options are there? Once you figure that out and those techniques, then it's time to start researching what are ways that I can delegate that out, because there's plenty of opportunities out there, whether it's obviously hiring a virtual assistant. There's also outsourcing opportunities. Some people do it in-house, maybe in their country. There's also opportunities with different companies that are outside of the country that you're in. But there are definite ways that you're able to do that and delegate. But it's just having a plan and action first before executing, doing the necessary research, and finding the right people that can help you.
That is some good points. Yes, it is. Very good points. So, what are some of the absolute, no's of delegating? I'm sure there are some mistakes that you don't want to make when it comes to actually delegating. What are some of those?
So definitely with delegating, you definitely do not want to give out just everything of the secret sauce. That is probably my number one thing as well.
Hmm.
With delegating also comes responsibility. You're trusting individuals to come into your business. You're taking your secret sauce and you're sharing this information with people who, unfortunately, we've seen in certain aspects of business, they may utilize it, they may try to copyright it, they may share that information. That's where you definitely need to make sure that any contracts, whether there's someone that's working for you as an employee or if they're an independent contractor, that's where you definitely have to make sure that those clauses are in place. Because we see it all the time. People will turn around, oh, I think I can do this. They'll try to copy what you're doing, but of course, it's not the original recipe. So they'll never master that. But you want to make sure with the absolute, when it comes to like delegating, you don't want to give out that information without having all of those necessary conversations in place. That's again with the contract. That's again with making sure that there's proper clauses on that contract.
Mhm.
So that way, when you're having these conversations, people know and understand, like, hey, this is what you're going to experience when you come in working and doing the task that's needed. But also, if for some reason it doesn't work out, because let's be honest, sometimes those relationships don't work out, you
Yeah.
may have to kind of go through a couple people first. there's an exit strategy as well. So if for some reason you have to depart or you have to, separate that relationship, what are the clauses there that's already been in place? So that way there's no issues moving forward, or you're seeing your stuff on a whole nother website that you
Yeah.
had no clue about, or a fake Instagram page. And then you looking
Wow.
like, what's going on here? So that's, I would definitely say, is my absolute no. Like, don't just share everything with your information without having the right clauses and the right legal things in place as well. So important now. People are finding each and every way to make money, and you want to make sure that your unique ideas and your unique services are definitely protected, which is extremely important.
Wow. Yeah. I've actually seen it a couple times now as you're talking about it. I'm like, because I remember that. What was that girl? She took it was the girl that's on the MTV show with Nick Cannon. I can't think of her name,
Mm.
but she had made a book and found out she had took all her information from this blogger that I actually followed for years.
Oh,
And
wow.
it was like on the Shade Room. It was on everywhere that she had took this girl's information, made a book, and made millions off of it.
Yep.
And this girl, she was just like, I remember just scrolling on my Instagram, and she was like, I heard this girl, this famous girl, then took my information, and she had put up the pictures of what she said and what the girl said, and it was word from word. And I was like, oh my God, girl. And it just kind of felt like it hit close to home because I've been following the blogger for years. And
Mm-hmm.
that's how I actually figured out how to blog was from her. I think her name is L something, ELLE or something like that.
Okay.
I wish I could remember that girl off of that MTV show. That what is that show with Nick Cannon? I can't think of it. That crazy show. It's that comedy
Oh, Wildin' Out.
show. Wildin' Out. The girl is on Wildin' Out, and she took all her information and put it in the book and made millions. It was crazy. But people steal that
Yeah.
kind of information all the time. Make, like
Every
you
day.
said, make fake Instagram pages. I follow Ashley Ann. She's like this huge marketer. I love her.
Yes,
And
she is
people,
awesome.
I love her. Actually, I'm getting her on this show. I'm so
Oh,
excited.
nice.
I,
That's
I
awesome.
know. Oh my
That's
God.
gonna be a good one. I'm gonna
I
tune in to
wasn't
that
going
one.
to tell anybody until, we have the actual date. We're still working on dates because she's so busy. Like
Yes.
she's going to be on Wendy Williams and everything. And I'm just like, oh my God, and she's going to be on my show. Woo.
Congrats. Congratulations.
Thank you. But I've seen where people have made fake pages of hers and
Yep.
actually just taken all her information that she puts out there, because she puts out a ton of valuable information, and just copying it. And it's like, wow, it's really heartbreaking to know that you can work that hard at stuff
Yep.
and trust somebody to delegate and to help you, and then they steal all your information, and there you go. The secret sauce is out.
Right. It's out, and it's just like, and especially like even with the Nick Cannon, going back to that with like Wildin' Out itself, I know
Mhm.
and I forgot the name of the main people that are sponsoring that, but I mean it was I think it was last year, the year before, where they talked about like copywriting, like Wildin' Out the show itself. Like somebody
Mm.
didn't get the proper trademarking, and this was all over. Like they didn't get the proper trademarking for Wildin' Out, and the actual studio bought it. And so like Nick Cannon came up with this whole idea, this whole situation. Like granted, whatever happened behind the scenes, they clearly worked it out, but I'm still kind of confused. Like, does he actually own it or does he not? Or did he have to actually
Wow.
buy it back? So
Wow.
again, like whoever was on his team. So this also is something I know that can be challenging. That's why it's important that you have all these things in place when you're having these conversations from the get-go and delegating, because this is something that could have been avoided had the right person and people were paying attention to items like that. Because
Yeah.
whether he had to fight to get that back, whether they had to come to an agreement deal, but it's things like that that are really important. So even when you're delegating, like it's helpful, but you also want to definitely just make sure that you're staying on top and understanding like, hey, this is still your secret sauce. This is still your recipe for success. So you want to make sure those items are in order when you are having those conversations with people.
Yeah, because when you said sauce, it made me think of Big Mac sauce. I haven't seen anybody replicate that.
Not at all. They said, nope,
I don't
ain't
know
gonna do
what
that.
McDonald's wrote on the contract for their Big Mac sauce, but ain't nobody touched it. Learn a lesson on that.
Right. Lesson has definitely been learned. Like, sir.
They knew what they was doing. But you're right. You are so right. And it's like that's just something else that I think a lot of people don't think about. Like these people can actually take my business and make their own business with it. You're just looking
Hmm.
for help and someone to help you grow and not realizing that they're about to cut you out under the table and steal your stuff. So that is a definitely a big no. That is a
Yes.
definitely a big no. Wow. So what factors do you need to look for in an employee that you are going to delegate to? Task to? Is there any factors that you need to be looking for when you hire someone?
So one of the biggest factors that I look at is their experience previously. So just I definitely referrals, like I'm one to like, because I want to know like what you've done. But it's in those conversations, to be honest, where you can actually learn a lot about a person. And so, when some people speak, some of them are quick, depending on their experience, they're quick to share the tea. That is a big red flag for me. Like
Mm,
they may not have intentionally done anything to like cause any type of issues, but if you're quick to just say, "Hey, A, B, C, and D, and this, that, and the other," obviously for me that's a little bit of a red flag because if something happens where you may not agree, or if we may have a disagreement with regards to a certain thing, and obviously under a professional situation, who's to say that you're not going to go out here and share that information, right? And I
mm,
say that coming from the experience of working with different startups. Like I work with a lot of startups, but you have to be cautious of, again, that secret sauce, that recipe, because a lot of information isn't shared. And you'd be surprised that a lot of people don't think the wrong person hears this information or conversation can get sued. I mean, let's talk about in real life, what's her name? Well, Cardi B, this just recently happened with
oh
Cardi B just
yeah.
won this money. Now, I don't know the girl. I don't usually pay attention to stuff like that because for me that's kind of like it's not focused.
Mm-hmm.
But, obviously the girl was saying a lot of stuff. She got sued, right?
Yeah.
Sharing information that really was a defamation of character with regards to Cardi B. Now,
Mm-hmm.
whether people want to agree with it or not, because you got some people on one side that's like, well, Cardi B's a public figure, blah, blah, blah. I think this kind of let people know, though, like, hey, you still have to be mindful, even though this is the media, you still have to be mindful of the things that you say and the things that you're sharing, because there's still legal ramifications around that. And when I conversate with people, when I'm talking to them about delegating, when I'm getting to know them and understand, I want to see how they talk about others, things, work that they've done, the people that they've worked with. Because if you're bringing that type of connotation with these individuals without keeping professional, I guess the word is quiet. That's the only word I can think of right now. But like just professional, right? Just not right. Just like hold on. But if there's certain things like you're sharing that really shouldn't be shared, or
Mm-hmm.
you're just spilling a lot of things, like that kind of lets me know, hey, I got to be kind of cautious with you. Like those are things that I look for. I look at how you present yourself when in the work that you've done previously. Those conversations really matter to me, because if you can still have some dignity, even if that project or if that particular role didn't work out, if you can still have that dignity to talk about like, hey, these are the things that I did, these are certain criteria. If you can at least keep that professionalism and keep the inciting information there, that lets me know that you have some type of integrity. And those are the
Mm-hmm.
things, that's one of the biggest things I look for when I'm working with somebody, whether employee or whether just like having an independent contract relationship. Those things are very crucial.
Yeah, it is. Because now when I think about it, as we're talking, when I'm thinking of like virtual assistants, they have the secret sauce of a lot of people.
Yeah,
They know the ins and outs of how everybody works. They got like passwords of your social media accounts. Like they have a lot of information in their hands, and you do have to be very careful when you get in a VA and make sure that they're very professional. Like you said, they don't drop all the tea and all that stuff. I never even thought about that.
absolutely. Yeah, it's
Mm.
crucial. It's definitely important. And that's where, As long as you have those contracts in place, as long as you have the expectation set from the beginning, it definitely makes better for a streamlined process, because you never want somebody coming in or saying, well, I didn't know, or I wasn't sure, right? Expectations are key with delegation, right? This is what you're working on. This is what I need from you. I don't need you over here. Like, I need you here. And
Mm-hmm.
so setting those expectations with delegation really just sets you up for stronger relationships, but it just sets you up for success as a whole.
Yeah, it does. It really does. This has been such an awesome topic. I am so glad that we decided to talk about this today, because this hits home for everybody, especially when
Yes,
you
it
start to
does.
grow and you start to, your business grows, you start making that money, you need extra help. This is a subject that will hit everyone.
I agree. And we got to get you, of course. I know we've been talking about this. It's time. We talked about this last round. It's time.
I know. I
Okay.
just keep. I have my secret sauce in my recipe book, and I just don't want to share.
Hey, listen, long as you got the contract, as long as you got your contract and your expectations, you good. I
Yes.
promise. I
And I was
promise.
going to say that too. Once you hire someone, especially if you hire a company like virtual assistant company, to make sure you read their contracts and see what they have in there when it comes to stuff like that.
Agreed.
And read it thoroughly. Because, a lot of times people don't read contracts all the way. You really got to stop and read and make sure that
Yes,
you're
you do.
signing up. Yeah, and protect
And
your
if you
business,
can't,
protect
you better
yourself.
get a lawyer. Like, if you
Yeah,
can't, when it talks about intellectual property, like, these are things that are crucial, because people will I mean, you got big companies stealing from small companies. People don't think it happens. It happens. They
it
will try to
does.
take your stuff. If they can find there's no trademark, there's no contract clause, intellectual property,
That's
next
right.
thing you know, your stuff is somewhere else, and you can't do nothing about it because
Yeah.
you didn't take the necessary steps. And it all, even though that's more on like a legal hire scale, it's still the same thing with delegation. Even if,
Mhm.
when you're hiring somebody to do a task or a VA, you're letting them know, hey, I want you to do my emails. I want you to do some content creation. I want you to respond to customers within a 24-hour SLA, right? So you want to outline what that looks like, okay? And make sure that those clauses are there about intellectual property regarding your business. It's
Mhm.
crucial.
Yes, it is. It is crucial. It's making my blood pressure go up. Thinking about
You like, I'm telling you, it's time.
making
We
me
we we gonna
nervous.
be on this. I'm gonna be checking in on you every time. Like, what's going on
Yes.
today?
It's making me nervous thinking about it. My heart rate went up just a little bit. And like while I'm trying to sit here and have a show about how to help you delegate, I need to help myself.
I hope.
But I'm learning. I tell you, every time I do a show, I take as much out of it as my listeners do. I learn just like everybody else. So it really helps me too. Okay, is there anything else you want to add? Is there any new projects coming up that you got going on?
Yes. So, of course, you guys know you can follow me. As you can see, Ali Joseph, the Virtual Solutionist. You can follow me on Facebook and Instagram. That's where I like to play a lot, at the Virtual Solutionist. I am Alicia Joseph on LinkedIn. So you can also, if you're one of those folks that like to connect, because LinkedIn has been a part of my conversations lately. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, thevirtualsolutionist.com is where you can find out more information about myself, my client management strategist, strategy information, services that I offer. And of course, that's where you can connect with me and we can talk about your client management needs. Coming up, I'm still in the works and I've been talking about this. Actually, this is the second podcast that I talked about this a little bit on. So I'm working on a course where people that do have current CRMs, more specifically, I have clientele that I've worked on that specifically use HoneyBook. They may have the tool, but they're not really sure, automation wise, ways that they can utilize it. This is more for like my podcasters and my coaches.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely, I'm going to share some tips on to help your automation, help your onboarding become more successful, ways that you can automate some of the tasks that you're doing as far as manual communication with clients. So something I'm working on. Don't have a date to be determined, but of course, I will let your small business podcast know the deets and let you guys know so that you are able to sign up for the course. It's going to be very, very insightful, and it will definitely help you leverage utilizing a CRM tool more effectively and efficiently for all the clients that you're going to be getting this year and going beyond.
Yes, definitely. Yes, definitely let us know. I will put it in the group. And of course, you're always invited to come in the group, post whatever you want, do some lives, whatever you want to do. Um, in the your small business podcast group. I love to do that because there's so many groups out there on Facebook that says, oh, you can only advertise yourself on Tuesday and Thursday, or you can't do it at all, and you can't do this and can't do that. I'm like, I'm trying to help people. Are you not trying to help people with their business? With their
Right.
business out there. I say, come on in anytime and do whatever you want to do. Like that. I just don't get that at all with some of those groups. But anyways, that's how they want to run it. But we're going to quickly play the this or that game. That's
Oh,
my new segment. Yes. This or that. I meant to send you
get my
all of the
wig
steps
ready,
from
girl.
the
Hold
song.
on. Let me make
Get
sure this
your
wig,
wig. Let me get ready to
make
play
sure
this
it's
game.
appropriate.
Just a few, just a few. Okay, so first one, coffee or tea?
Coffee.
All day. I'm drinking a protein shake right now with coffee in it.
I know that's right.
Would you rather attend a party or host a party?
Honestly, I would rather attend a party. I just cannot, like, I've tried the event planning. It's a lot of work. That was like one of my first entrepreneurial journeys. It was fun. I did comedy shows. It was
Oh.
fun, but it was just like I just rather, sometimes I don't want to be the I don't want to be the attention in the room. I just want to come in, have my drink,
Mm-hmm.
dance, and just mingle with people. So I'd rather just attend.
That is so interesting. You were event planning for comedy shows.
Yes, so a friend of mine, he used to host Gator Comedy here in Chicago. He's in Texas now, but yeah, he used to do a lot of different he would do them like monthly shows, and so I was helping with the event planning and setup for the actual show. So that was like one of my first entrepreneurial endeavors of me just saying, okay, let me see if I could be an entrepreneur. But yeah, like it takes a lot to host. Like shout out to event planners and people that work in events, because it takes a
Mm-hmm.
lot to host and to get an event together, and things always like mess up or there's something that's going on. So I learned a lot in coming
Wow.
that. But I realized too, it wasn't my expertise.
Okay.
Leave it to those who are passionate about it.
Exactly. Exactly. That's why I love playing this game, because you just never know what you can, get to know a person. That's why I was like, I want to play this or that so we can get to know, the guests and everything. This is fun. Let's see. Would you rather be rich and famous or rich and unknown?
Ooh, oh. Back when I was in my 20s, it would definitely be rich and famous. Nowadays, especially with my son, rich and unknown. I understand privacy is very important.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like I said, before my son, 20s, like I'd be out there, but just with him, his privacy, like my son, also having some of the health complexity he has, I would just not want that out there because
Yeah.
everyone's not educated and a lot of people are cruel. I also know me, I'm recovering with a lot of things. I've, take therapy. So I'm working on me in that aspect. So
Yes.
yes, definitely. Yeah, when it
Yeah.
comes to my son, it is not a joke. So I would definitely prefer rich and unknown.
I think I would too. I would really too. I would rather be rich and unknown. Me and my husband, we always have these talks like, if we won the lottery, what would happen? And let me tell you, you have to play the lottery in order to win, which we don't never play. But
Mhm.
we have those discussions, and I'm always like, I don't want anybody to know. I would take my money and move to a whole nother state. I would, of course, then, give my family money and stuff. But
Right.
I would leave because that comes with a lot of attention and people harassing you, and I don't want to be famous. No.
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm. I'll just I'd like to have my money to myself and mind my business.
That's it. Like I'll be a silent investor. That's how I look at it. Like that's one of my other
Yeah.
goals on my list. Like be a silent partner, silent investor.
Just here we go, make my money, and let's be quiet. Let me sip
Right,
my
and keep it
coffee.
moving.
Yep, exactly, exactly. Um, let's see, cooking or being cooked for.
Oh, that's kind of tricky. I love to cook. My most
Really?
recent that I've been learning is doing curries. So my
Mm.
father-in-law, my husband's father, is from Trinidad.
Oh,
So I like one thing I want to do is really import like his culture and customs to our son. So lately I've been learning how to cook curry. So curry chicken, curry oxtails, like I've have
oh.
that's so important to me that he has like that culture background. So it's a little hard because some days, yeah, I'm lazy, but and my husband will cook for me, Jeff will cook for me, and it's great. But then on the opposite side, especially like, working and then working on the business and then working and then with CJ. So it's like, okay, that's a little hard because I like both.
Yeah.
Like I like to be cooked for, but I also like to cook too. Like there's just something with the love of the cooking that just makes it so exciting to do. Doing it every day though, no, I can't do that.
Mm-mm.
I'm tired.
I wish I had that love for cooking. I'm getting out of it. My husband is a great cook. He cooks way better than I can. I can do a little bit, but I'm at a point where I just do. I cook probably once a week. It's terrible. Once a week.
She said, I ain't got time. Listen, this is all
I
you getting.
Yeah, it's like after I have my, I'm a nurse, I have my full time job, and then once I finish with that, I go work out, and then by that time it's 7 o'clock, and
Shout out to nurses.
we have teenagers. I'm like, go fix you up. You know how to cook. We're either
Right.
gonna raise
That
you
time
from
is
the back of
over.
the
You're not a
bag.
baby.
Exactly. Like you taller than me. Go put that in the oven. you
You like,
read,
go
you
ahead.
know
You
how
do
to
that.
read.
It's easy. There you go. Put it
Yeah,
on in and you good.
I wish I had that, but I don't have it.
That's okay. You know what? That's okay. Like the goal is to make sure, shout out to nurses. I have to do that because nurses
Thank
are
you.
the best. We have some of the best private duty nurses for our son.
Mhm.
Shout out to nurses because I tell you what,
Thank you.
I couldn't do this by myself. Uh
I used to do that. I used to be a private duty nurse, and I've had some little babies and kids that I've taken care of. And yeah, I do miss that part of it because now I just work. I work in the office now. I only go to the office like twice a week. I
Mhm.
work from home most of the day, so I don't do that anymore. But I do miss that connection, that patient. I do miss that.
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Glad you got some good nurses, by the way. That makes a whole difference.
Yes, it
Whole
does.
difference. Yes, 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 yes. We'll do one more. Let's do Hulu or Netflix. Which one you like
Oh,
better?
ooh. Hulu. I
Do
like
you?
I Netflix, everybody talks about Netflix all the time in these movies. I just can't get into them. I don't know why.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why. Hulu for me, but that's also because I got the package that includes live TV, it
Okay.
includes Disney Plus, so CJ can sit and watch all the. I do too. I ain't gonna lie. I just told people recently. I don't know if you saw on Facebook, like I have an addiction to Mott's apple juice. I'm
Lord,
trying to go to therapy for that, but yeah,
Lord have mercy. At least it's apple juice. It could be something else.
we ain't gonna talk about that. Back in the day, back in the day, But literally, like Hulu, I like Hulu. Like we get everything. I like my shows. My husband likes Netflix. Like he watches more Netflix than I do. But
Hmm.
I don't know. For me, it's Hulu. Like I'm not really, I don't, I'm not really a movie person. I am, but I'm
Hmm.
not. It has to make sense because Jeff will tell y'all like I'll get pissed after like a couple hours if this movie was garbage. I will
Yeah.
snap literally. Like I don't like my time waste. If I'm gonna watch something, it needs to be something that I'm just like, oh, this was great, like a part of my time. But yeah, Hulu kind of gives me everything that I need, and I'm on my way.
It's good. I do. I watch both. I do both. I think I do more of Netflix, but I do like how Hulu has a lot of like old shows that
Yeah.
I can catch up on. I've started This Is Us. I think I'm on the
Okay.
third episode or something of that, and of course, all the Housewives. That's all I ever watch. All the Housewives is on there
Listen,
from episode one, season one. Yes.
I know that's right.
But thank you so much for coming on the show again. Of course, we have to have you back You gotta come back as always. I think I'll do a few episodes with some more people and then have you back. Like at least every couple months. Just come back.
That will be awesome. I'm excited. This is my place. I love it. I love it.
Thank you. I'm so excited. Thank you. So thanks again, and we will see you again soon. I appreciate you.
Yes, thank you.
Uh-huh.